Clipping masks are one of the most useful and important tools when it comes to designing and working with Photoshop or other editors. It's also important, especially for people unfamiliar with the tool, to acclimate themselves to it and become more familiar with using it and its limitations. So, in this guide, I will be showing you how to use the clipping tool, along with some things to keep in mind when you are using it. So to start out, I'm going to pop open an example of clipping onto text. So opening up this folder, you will see the text layer and a layer below it just to provide a background for the text. Now I'm going to drag in an image, make it visible, and you'll notice that on making the image visible, the text itself is no longer visible. However, what we want to do is take this image and format it so that it is in the shape of the text. Now, we can do this by right-clicking on the image and going to create clipping mask, and that is just a quick way to do it, but there is an even faster method. If you hold Alt on your keyboard and click in between the two layers, making sure the layer you want to clip is above the layer clipping to, and then you click once you're there, it will clip onto that layer for you. Now, important to keep in mind, any blending options you have on the layer that you are clipping to will affect the layers you are clipping onto it. So, for example, I have a color overlay. You'll notice that the clipping mask is still in effect. However, you can no longer see the photo of Japan because this orange brownish color is now taking precedence. However, if we aren't doing a color overlay and instead doing something like a pattern overlay, not that pattern, but say a line pattern, we can actually create some pretty nice effects using blends and other methods. So in this scenario, just be aware of blending options and order of precedence when it comes to clipping. Because let's say you have a second image and then you proceed to clip that image on. Because this image is now above the first image you clipped on, it is going to take precedence and it will show up instead of the image below it. Now let's say you want to take this text and have two different views for it, the top being cherries and the bottom being Japan. We can take these cherries and just drag this up until it only covers the top section. Now, there could be a scenario where you prefer the middle section of the cherry view, and I would agree this looks a lot better. And there are two ways you can go about doing this so you can see both of these images. One would be a destructive method of taking this, click and delete, and now it is in view, but we have also deleted half of the cherry image. The other method being taking our text layer, or whatever we are clipping to, and dividing it in half, though again, that could also be problematic. I personally would choose option 1 because typically what you're clipping on is easier to replace or keep a backup of if you want to use it in other situations. So, going off of this example and onto our next example, I'll be using this meme template. So, when making memes, you will sometimes see a blank canvas like so, and people occasionally take this blank canvas and put something else entirely onto it. And there are a couple ways of going about doing so. One method that doesn't work quite that well for me, but works well for others, is just using the quick selection tool. And in this scenario, it actually worked pretty well, aside from this extra little space it covered on the right. And to zoom in, I'm simply holding Alt on my keyboard and scrolling with my mouse wheel, as you can see. But then again, on the left, it didn't cover quite far enough. So this is a quick and dirty way to do it, and it can definitely work if that is your preference. And for memes, it's typically quick and dirty anyway. Another option is to take your pen tool and work your way around, though this method can be pretty tedious, especially around things like the fingers. Because as you can see, I'll click all the way around, I come back up, come around over here, and now I need to work my way around each of these little fingers. And in this case, it's fairly easy, but when it comes to larger images or more complex memes, say the meme where there's the button and the white space around it, you might want to put an image there, and there's a drop shadow coming off the button. That could be a bit more work to get organized. So after going around with the pen tool, I can right click, make selection, click OK, do a Control J. And now with this Control J layer, we do the same thing as before, take our Japan image, take it below, clip it on, and now SpongeBob is showing a nice little photo of Japan. Going on to another example, in this case, I have my left section here, which is the base, and say I brought this over and it isn't far enough to the right for me. So I want to drag this over a bit more, and I clip it on to have a wider gray section, but now the space here is visible. However, because I'm clipping it on, I can simply go over to my pencil tool and draw right over this. It fills in and you don't notice anything past the initial shape is clipping to. But if I reveal this, you'll see a giant blob. But thankfully, we clipped everything on so that is not visible. Now, with those examples out of the way, I want to show you a more advanced way that clippings masks can be used. So coming to this GFX style banner and coming over to this section here, you notice the background is fairly complex. So looking at this section right there, there are multiple layers clipped on to provide this effect. Now things like soft light and other blending modes are in effect, but this boils down to clipping masks within this rectangular space. So I hope you found this tutorial to be helpful and you take advantage of all of the useful features and designs you can make with clipping masks. If you like this tutorial, please make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And other than that, I hope you have an awesome day.